When you look at the students in our schools, 75% of them, 80% of them are going to do well. 20 to 25% are struggling or are at risk. And the bottom 5% or so of those students that are struggling at risk are our LGBT students who really dealing with some very difficult situations. If we can make schools safer for that most vulnerable population, that 5% that is most at risk, when we make schools safer for those children, we make schools safer for every other child in that school.
As mentioned in the Department of Health and Human Services Healthy Peoples 2020, understanding and providing better support for LGBTQ individuals must be at the forefront if you want to improve overall health outcomes. There are many ways to change the school climate to be more welcoming and affirming to LGBTQ students. You can approach these changes from institutional, social, or cultural levels. Though most lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning youth thrive during adolescence as a result of being surrounded by supportive learning, work, home, and community environments, some LGBTQ individuals experience more difficulties in their lives and school environments. These difficulties include discrimination, violence, victimization, and suicidality. In general, LGBTQ individuals represents a community of diverse individuals who identify as either lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, or queer. The meaning of these terms can differ slightly based on how an individual chooses to identify or relate to the label. Lesbian and gay describe individuals who are emotionally, romantically, and/or sexually attracted to members of the same sex. Bisexual individuals describe a person who is emotionally, romantically, and/or sexually attracted to both men and women, though not necessarily at the same time. Transgender or trans describes a broad range of people who experience and/or express their gender as something different from the sex they were assigned at birth. Queer, which can be considered a derogatory term by some, has also been reclaimed by others in the community to describe anything non-heterosexual or non-normative as it relates to how mainstream society views gender and sexuality. Though understanding the meaning of these identities can often be difficult and can differ from individual to individual, it is best to allow individuals to self-identify and define themselves in a way that is most affirming and safe for them. As educators, our role is to not tell someone who they are or should be, but to be able to identify when one is exhibiting warning signs of bringing harm to themselves, and then be prepared to respond accordingly. Ways you can better support LGBTQ students include becoming more flexible when support is offered to students, provide gender-neutral restrooms. Ways to respond to social barriers in the academic setting to better support LGBTQ students include establishing gay-straight alliances or similar student groups to strengthen community among LGBTQ students and their allies. Making sure all LGBTQ students are able and comfortable accessing services regardless of their race, ability, class, or language. Ways to shift the overall culture of a school to better support LGBTQ students include updating school curriculums, encouraging school dialogues, educating school educators and administrators, having caring adults who identify as LGBTQ or allies ensures youth have a person to turn to during difficult times. Caring adults and allies can also act as active bystanders by holding others accountable to remarks or behavior that may be harmful to LGBTQ people.
Mark's situation, after being, bullied for many years, his sophomore year in high school, it just kind of culminated into a very, very, very deep depression. Mark was depressed for 6 months. And during that 6-month depression is when he no longer felt that he had a future. He no longer felt that he wanted to live. It was so difficult to look at a child that was just such a warm, compassionate young man, and to see him see no hope for his future. Today, he's doing fantastic. He's an RN, summa cum laude from Suffolk University. Once he got through the depression, and he got into an environment where he felt accepted and supported, and he realized that his family and his true friends loved him unconditionally, he was fine. But getting him through school, and especially through high school, was difficult. As a parent with a depressed, suicidal sophomore, I was the first one up every day. So when I got up every morning, the first thing that I would do was go into Mark's room. And every morning for 6 months, till he came out of that depression, I went into that bedroom to see if he was breathing, not knowing whether he would be. The second thing I'd like to share with you is, from Mark's perspective, we had an incident one night that I think really gave a lot of insight into what he was feeling. My wife and I came home from work, and he was sitting at the kitchen table waiting for us. He was exceptionally calm. His demeanor was just so relaxed, and he wanted to talk to us. And he basically began the conversation trying to explain to us that we would be better off if he was dead. And that I think he was looking for us to give him permission to commit suicide. And he kept saying to us, "Mom, Dad, you don't understand. I'm broken and I can't be fixed." We pleaded with him. We said, "Mark, you're going to be okay. You're depressed. We're going to get you some help. You're going to go into therapy. You're going to possibly go on medication, but you're going to be okay." He said, "Dad, you don't understand. I'm broken. I can't be." I said, "No, Mark, you don't understand. You're going to be okay. You just have to bear with this. You have to stick this out. You have to work with us on this." And he said, "Dad," he said, "I'm broken. I can't be fixed." He got up from the kitchen table. He walked in the living room. He took the lampshade off the lamp, and he unscrewed the light bulb. Came back to the table, and he grabbed the light bulb in his hand, and he crushed it, cut in his hand. There was blood streaming. And he looked at me, and he said, "Dad, the light bulb's broken. Can you fix that light bulb?" Mark's situation, after being, bullied for many years, his sophomore year in high school, it just kind of culminated into a very, very, very deep depression. And he basically began the conversation trying to explain to us that we would be better off if he was dead. I think he was looking for us to give him permission to commit suicide. He kept saying to us, "Mom, Dad, you don't understand. I'm broken and I can't be fixed." So after Mark's attempted suicide, he was hospitalized, and he was hospitalized in a psychiatric unit, and he couldn't have any visitors except for his immediate family. And we could only visit from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock each evening. So the day after this happened, I got a phone call from the vice principal at his school. And the word had spread through the school what had happened, and he wanted to tell me how sorry he was and if there was anything that the school could do to let him know. But the real reason for his call was because 3 of the teachers that Mark had at the school, who were pretty shaken up by this, wanted to see Mark. They wanted to visit him in the hospital. And they called the hospital, and the hospital explained to them that he couldn't have any visitors. and that the only exception to that, except for immediate family, was if the family gave permission for the person to visit and gave up some of those 2 hours of their visiting time to the other person. So he was calling to ask permission if we would give permission to those 3 teachers to go in and visit with Mark. And we did. Those teachers, we gave them each 15 minutes. So we went in for an hour and 15 minutes after them. They went in before us for 15 minutes each, and they visited with Mark. And the difference that made, for them to go out of their way, for them to go way above and beyond the call of being an educator, to try and help a student who saw no hope for living, really. And even more importantly, after Mark got out of the hospital and was back in school, those 3 teachers I described them as his guardian angels. They watched over him every day. They kept an eye on him. We would get a phone call if there was a bad day. If Mark was having a bad day, keep an extra special eye on him tonight. Today didn't go so well. I don't know how this would have turned out if it wasn't for those 3 teachers. I don't know if we would have saved Mark without their help.